Hello, everyone, and welcome into the Star Wars Legends Lounge, the show that celebrates the books from Star Wars Legends. I'm Aaron Moats. Han and Leia find themselves on the opposite side from the rest of their family, heading into the Second Galactic Civil War. And now, they've been sent on a secret mission to recruit another planetary system to Corellia's side. Will the reunion with an old friend be a happy one? Or will Solos discover their mission isn't exactly what they signed up for? It's Tempest by Troy Denning, the third book in the Legacy of the Force series. And returning to help me talk about the book is my buddy Scott. How you doing today, Scott?
I'm good, man. I'm ready to go. Got a one-book break there with Cat Taking Bloodlines, and I'm ready to go.
Quick sports talk here, listener. At the time of this recording, Real Salt Lake is sitting just outside the playoff standings in the West in MLS. So, what do you think, Scott? Your team, the Claret and Cobalt, are they going to make the postseason, or are they just going to miss out?
My dad would say, I don't know, Scott, that's why they play the games. I went to a game in July, and it's so frustrating because they had such a good July. Things were looking good. It looked like they were kind of like ascending. They'd figured it out. But August was awful. So it's hard to say. I think they could. They've got a couple games in hand on the people right above them. So they could pick up some points there and kind of sneak in. There's still like 5 or 6 games left for them. I think it's 5. They did also try to improve. They picked up a couple new players, a couple new strikers. Sometimes soccer's not baseball, right? You can't just like plug a guy into the lineup and like he starts hitting homers. Like you got to figure out the dynamic and make sure you gel. Maybe they can figure that out and start kind of, humming on all cylinders and figure out the combinations and make it work. I'm hopeful. I don't know. We'll see.
So 5 games left. What do you think they got to go? You think they got to win at least 3?
I think they got to win at least 3. Yeah.
All right. Well, here's hoping your boys can run off a few wins in a row.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about my DC United team. Once again, probably going to win the wooden spoon for about the 3rd time in 4 seasons. So
they've had a rough patch.
Oh yeah, it's.
Remember when you traded us Freddie Adu? All downhill since.
Oh my word! Wow, you're going back You're going back to what? 2004? 2005?
Before most of your audience was born.
Yeah, exactly. Listener, that ends sports talk for this episode. Now, let's head to listener question time. Today's email comes from Sable, who says, Hello, Aaron. I have some questions for you. Number 1, how would the Star Wars characters react to Earth if they saw it and learned about it? 2, what would have happened if Han didn't kidnap Leia before she went to Hapes with Prince Isolde? 3, how would Han act if either his parents or Dulana were still alive? And 4, what would have happened if Vader survived Return of the Jedi, and how would everyone react? Well, Scott, I have answered the last question that Sable posed twice before on the program. So I think people understand my opinion on that one, but I'll let you answer that. What would have happened if Vader had survived Return of the Jedi?
Well, we all know how much everyone loved Somehow Palpatine Has Returned. Listen, I come from A Song of Ice and Fire, a series where people survive deaths that you think they suffered all the time but came back to live. I think that if stories are written well and the characters are making choices that befit who they are and are honest, that audiences can be pretty forgiving about that. But explaining away the Force ghost would be tricky. He literally appears as a Force ghost. I guess that's in the edited versions. If we're real purists, maybe that's not the case. Actually, no, it was just a different version, wasn't it? Yeah, it was just a different actor in that Force ghost. So anyway, that'd be tricky. The better question to me, though, is why would you? Why would you want to bring Anakin back? The journey he took, how he got there, bringing balance to the Force. It was beautiful. It was a good story. It's why, one of the many reasons I think why people relate to this story. So you just shouldn't mess with stories like that. So, as as Malcolm says in Jurassic Park, so busy wondering if you could, you didn't ask if you should, right?
Good answer. And once again, my answer, Sable, if Vader would have survived, one of two things would have happened. Either they would have imprisoned him for the rest of his life, or he would have been sent to some sort of habitable planet where no one else was, and he would just be exiled for the rest of his life. I think that's it.
You went with the narrative answer. I was going with like the philosophical answer. All right.
Well, no. I think both answers are legitimate either way. So let's go back to the first few. In order for you to answer question number 2 or question number 3, Scott, you'd have to have read some other parts of Legends, and I don't think you've read any of those books. So
I have not, but I'm very curious now about Solo's parents. It's a relationship I haven't thought about a lot. I'm very curious now, but continue.
Honestly, I have never thought much about it. I do know there are some stories in Legends, I believe they're comics, where Han does run into his father. But at first, both he and the reader don't know that it's his father. But I have not read those. I'm not much of a comic reader. So, Sable, I will say that if Han had not kidnapped Leia before she went to Hapes with Princess Solder, I think she would have done what she thought her duty was to the New Republic in order to try to form an alliance with the Hapes cluster. I do not think she would have went through with the marriage to Isolde. I think Leia, as much as she has a sense of duty to the New Republic, I still think she still has enough agency in what she wants out of her own life that she would not just go into a marriage with someone that not only did she not love, but didn't really know very well. Now, as for Han, how would he act with either of his parents or Dulana were still alive? I think he would be much more happy if Dulana was still alive, because she basically raised him. Han doesn't remember his parents. Do I think he would have interacted with them if he learned they were alive? Sure. But at the time, if Han were to meet his parents, I think he would resent the fact that he wasn't, that they were not the ones who raised him, that they had somehow given him up, if you understand what I'm saying. But Dulana, the Wookiee, she's the one who raised him from the age of about 4 or 5 up to when she died. So I think he'd be much more ecstatic if Dulana was still around.
If I could, real quick, Aaron.
Sure.
On number 2, what you said about Leia and her agency. I know it's a canon book and not a Legends book, but Leia, Princess of Alderaan, is one of my favorites. It's one of the books that I credit making Leia my favorite character in Star Wars. I feel like they explore a lot of that in her youth and growing up, and the agency and how she learns to be herself. I liked your answer. I'll just put it that way. And I recommend that book. It's by Claudia Gray, who wrote Lost Stars, which is one of my favorite Star Wars books. It's more of like a young book, but
yeah, it's a young adult novel.
But it's still very good. And Leia, Princess of Alderaan, also fantastic. I really liked it. Actually, I don't know, Aaron, what you think about it. I don't remember if we've talked about that. But
I like both of them. I would say, for me, Lost Stars and Leia, Princess of Alderaan are both on the second tier. So, like, if they were grade levels, it'd be a B. Both of them would be a B, which is really good book.
I'll take it.
Yeah, really good book. Real quick, Sable's last question: how would Star Wars characters react to Earth if they saw it and learned about it? I think they would think that the humans here on Earth were pretty primitive because they didn't have, the ability to fly through the stars. They didn't have the abilities to create ships like Star Destroyers, like X-Wings, like the Death Star. I also think the ones who, like Luke, would feel a little sorry for us that we didn't understand or know about or could touch the Force. So honestly, I think they would just see us as a bit primitive. And for the most part, I doubt they would really hang around Earth. I think they just see us, oh, these are what these people are doing, and then they would head back to other more advanced planets in the galaxy.
I think that's a good answer. I forgot the first line in the entire series of movies a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, in the sense that they have all these advanced technologies a long, long time ago, and they come upon us all of a sudden, and we are, if they had found us then a long, long time ago, we would have had not even cars. We would have had not even waterways or roads or any of that. So, yeah, we would have been very primitive a long, long time ago, depending on how you define long, long time ago. So good point, Aaron. I just said, oh, look, planet 92,348, because there are so many planets in Star Wars. I'm not sure Earth would register much at all. They'd be like, okay, catalog it. It's got water and plant and land and these things that resemble people. But they just move on. Kind of like Aaron said, I guess.
Thanks again for the questions, Sable. Now, listener, if you have a question for the show, you can send me an email at swlegendslounge@gmail.com or send me a message on Twitter, Instagram, or Blue Sky at swlegendslounge. And if you'd like to get your voice on the show, you can record a short message and email it in, but please record it in MP3 audio format. Now it's time for today's book, Tempest by Troy Denning, the third book in the Legacy of the Force series. Grab yourself a drink. Let's head in to the Star Wars Legends Lounge.
The story begins in the outskirts of the Corellian system, in the Kiris asteroid belt. Han and Leia find themselves in the middle of a hidden battle fleet. They're invited to a meeting with Dur Gejjen and members of his cabinet. Gejjen tells the Solos that Corellia has an opportunity to turn the ruler of a Galactic Alliance planetary system to their side. Queen Mother Tenel Ka of Hapes. Because Tenel Ka is a family friend, Gejjen hopes the Solos will try to convince her. Reluctantly, Han and Leia agree. They leave the asteroid belt and jump to hyperspace, but not without being noticed by their daughter Jaina and her friend Zek. The Galactic Alliance knows about the hidden Corellian fleet, and they know that Han and Leia are headed to Hapes.
On Coruscant, Jacen Solo is being hunted by an old friend. Alima Rar wants to kill Jacen as revenge for what Leia did to her during the Killik crisis, when Alima joined the Gorog Dark Nest and tried to kill Luke Skywalker. The Twi'lek's duel with Leia has left her scarred. She's missing one of her laku, and her left arm hangs lifeless. Leia follows Jacen into Coruscant's Undercity, but her assassination attempt fails. A few days later, Alima follows Jacen and discovers his partnership with Lumaya. Well, that changes everything. Alima realizes the best way to get back at Leia isn't to kill her son, but to help his fall to the dark side of the Force. After Jacen leaves, Alima confronts Lumaya. The Dark Lady of the Sith is about to kill Alima when the two hear a rustle in the bushes. It turns out Luke sent another Jedi, Tresina Lobi, to spy on Jacen. The woman tries to flee when she's discovered, but Alima and Lumaya chase Master Lobi down and decapitate her.
Han and Leia arrive on Hapes for the meeting with Tenel Ka, but the Queen Mother's secretary says she doesn't have them scheduled for an appointment. Immediately, Han realizes that they've been set up. But for what? Doesn't take long to figure out when a group of assassins try to fight past Hapen security and reach the Queen's apartments. Leia uses the Force to warn Tenel Ka, and the Queen Mother calls in reinforcements to stop the attackers. In the confusion, Hapen security IDs Han and Leia as two of the assailants and fire upon them. The Solos escape with the help of one of the assassins, a near-human hybrid woman named Nashta. She takes the Solos to a place called Telkur Station to meet with her employer. The three enter the station's cantina and see Jagged Fell. Han and Leia thought he was killed during the war with the Killiks. No, Jag said. I was marooned for over 2 years. Now I've been exiled by the Chiss. Jag warns Han and Leia that Alima Rar is still alive and that he is on her trail.
Jaina and Zek arrive on Hapes and meet with Tenel Ka. They start to investigate what happened, but soon discover that all the eyewitnesses in her assassination attempt are dead. Tenel Ka believes some of the Hapen nobles are behind the attack. She sends Jacen and Zek to the planet Terraphon to meet the Ducha Galney, one of the nobles loyal to the Hapen throne. However, when they arrive on Terraphon, they find the Galney estate abandoned. When the two Jedi begin to search the grounds, they're attacked by a pair of hunter-killer droids. Jaina and Zek fight their way out of the Galney estate, but before they can reach their X-Wings, the Ducha's fleet appears. The ships bombard the area, destroying the airfield and the Galney estate, burning down the entire capital city in order to eliminate the two Jedi.
Back on Coruscant, the local police contact the Jedi Temple. They've found Tresina Lobi's body. Luke and Mara trace her movements from the Jedi Temple to a place called Fellowship Plaza. There, Luke gets a feeling from the Force. Lumaya is nearby. The Jedi Masters track the Dark Presence to an apartment where Mara disables Lumaya's booby traps, and the two Jedi Masters enter her lodgings. After a short search, Luke and Mara find evidence that Lumaya has infiltrated the Galactic Alliance Guard. Worried that the Sith Lady could take revenge on him by targeting Ben, Luke immediately contacts the Gag to warn their son. But Ben isn't at Gag. He's headed to Hapes, with Jacen on the Guard's new Star Destroyer, the Anakin Solo.
After Jag leaves the cantina, Han, Leia, and Nashta are attacked. They fight their way out of the bar and sprint through the station's corridors. Han takes a blaster bolt to the shoulder. He's hurt, but not bad. The three make their way to the hangar. There, they find Nashta's employer, Lady Lalu Morwan. Morwan says she'll only pay Nashta if the assassin kills Tenel Ka's daughter Alana, the Hapen Chumeda. Nashta takes Lady Morwan's shuttle while Han, Leia, and Morwan escape on the Millennium Falcon. As they leave the system, Morwan says she works for Ducha Algray, the mastermind behind the plot to kill Tenel Ka and her daughter.
It's been too long since Jacen has heard from Jaina and Zek, so he sends Ben to Terraphon to find out what happened to them. Ben arrives to find the Galney estate destroyed, but Jaina and Zek are still alive. When Ben picks them up, Jaina tells her cousin about Ducha Galney and the other Hapen nobles trying to overthrow Tenel Ka. She convinces Ben to ignore Jacen's orders to rendezvous at a depot in the Roko system. They need to go back to Hapes to warn Tenel Ka and Jacen.
Luke and Mara arrive on the Anakin Solo and confront Jacen with the news that Lumaya is working with the Gag. Jason says he doesn't know anything about Lumaya, using the Force to shield the lie from his aunt and uncle. Before they're about to leave, Tenel-Ka arrives. She has a message from Jason's parents. The four Jedi listen as Han and Leia reveal that Ducha Algore and a cabal of Hapan nobles were behind the assassination attempt on Tenel-Ka. They also tell Jason about the assassin coming for Ilana. She calls herself Nashta, but she's actually the notorious Jedi hunter from the Clone Wars, Aurra Sing. Jason rescinds the death sentences on his parents, but he refuses to rescind their arrest warrants. Luke is disheartened with Jason's decision, but there's nothing he can do about it right now. Jason tells his uncle that Ben is headed for Roku Station, and if Lumaya is really hunting him, that's where she's headed too.
Luke and Mara arrive on Roku Station and fall right into Lumaya's trap. The Sith Lady waits until the Skywalkers enter a busy cantina and then breaks out her light whip, using it to attack the patrons. Luke jumps to try to intervene, but in the chaos, it's difficult to reach Lumaya. Mara tries to flank the Sith Lady, but as she tries to make her way through the running crowd, she feels another presence. She turns and ducks when Alima Rar launches a surprise attack. The former Jedi is still agile, but without the use of both arms, the Twi'lek is no match for Mara in a fair fight. Mara quickly knocks Alima unconscious, but when she turns to help Luke, Mara discovers that Alima has strapped a bomb to herself. While Mara works to disarm the bomb, Luke finally makes his way to Lumaya. The Sith Lady snaps her light whip at Luke. He blocks, but one of the whip's tassels smacks across his chest. Luke falls to the ground, but before Lumaya strikes again, Luke calls a blaster to his hand. He fires, striking Lumaya in the chest. Mara runs to help her husband. She tells Luke about Alima Rar and the bomb she disarmed. Mara bends over to open Lumaya's robe. She, too, has a bomb. There's no time to disarm it. Mara grabs Luke's arm and helps him back to their shuttle. They launch. Just an explosion rips through Roku Station. The Skywalkers escape and set course for Hapes, neither of them believing that Lumaya has actually perished in the blast.
Still believing that Han and Leia are on her side, Lady Morwan leads the Solos to meet up with the fleet raised by the Hapan usurpers, and they're joined by the secret Corellian fleet. Gejjen is part of the assassination attempt on Tenel-Ka, Han says. We have to warn her about the attack that's coming to Hapes. Leia agrees, but she tells her husband that once they broadcast the plan to overthrow Tenel-Ka, they won't be able to return to Corellia. They'll be branded as traitors. Still, Han sends the message, warning Jason and Tenel-Ka that a combined Hapan and Corellian fleet are on the way.
The Battle of Hapes begins. Tenel-Ka's fleet fights courageously, but her ships are trapped between the planet and the combined fleet of the usurpers and the Corellians. And the Millennium Falcon zips through the fighting with Leia at the helm, darting in and out, dodging turbo lasers blasts from all sides. The Falcon makes it out of the battle and heads to the outskirts of the system, when suddenly it receives a signal. It's Jaina, Zek, and Ben! Han and Leia pick up the Jedi and head back toward the Anakin Solo, just as the Galactic Alliance fleet arrives. The fleet joins Tenel-Ka's forces and hammers away at the usurpers and the Corellians. As the Anakin Solo advances, Jason notices a familiar freighter hanging around just outside the fighting. So, while the Anakin begins pummeling the Algray forces, Jason orders one turbo laser battery to focus on the Falcon and fire.
The first turbolaser hits the Falcon's stern, shattering the freighter's shields. Leia's Noghri bodyguards man the Falcon's quad lasers and fire back, trying to disable the turbolaser cannons on the Anakin Solo. Leia sends the ship through a series of spins and dives, trying to throw off the Star Destroyer's aim, but the Falcon is rocked by a glancing blow. Leia is thrown hard against the control board. She's stunned, and the Falcon momentarily stops its wild maneuvers. Two more blasts rock the top and bottom of the ship, evaporating the quad lasers and the Noghri.
Realizing their son is hell-bent on killing them, Han and Leia order Jaina, Zek, and Ben into the Falcon's emergency escape pod. With the Jedi safely off the ship, Leia accelerates away from the Anakin Solo. They're hit by another turbo laser blast. One more, and the ship's finished. But just before the Falcon is destroyed, Han plots a quick hyperspace jump out of the system. Leia pulls the hyperdrive levers, and the ship jumps to light speed. After his parents escape, Jason orders the Anakin Solo's recovery crews to rescue Ben, Jaina, and Zek. The story ends with Jason meeting privately with Tenel Ka. They reiterate their love for one another. But it's too dangerous if the Hapens learn that Jason is Alana's father. They say goodbye, and once again Jason leaves Tenel Ka and returns to Coruscant.
Time to take a break. When we return, Scott and I will talk more about Tempest. I'm Aaron Moats. Stay tuned. You're listening to the Star Wars Legends Lounge. Thank you for listening to the Star Wars Legends Lounge, where we celebrate the books from Star Wars Legends. But let me take a moment and recommend a book from Star Wars canon. Thrawn Treason focuses on the future Grand Admiral learning to navigate the politics of the Imperial military. But when Eli Vanto brings him a warning from the unknown regions, Thrawn must decide whether to return to the Chiss ascendancy or remain loyal to the Emperor. It's Thrawn Treason by Timothy Zahn. Welcome back to the Star Wars Legends Lounge, the show that celebrates the books from Star Wars Legends. I'm Aaron Moats, and today, Scott and I are talking about the Star Wars Legends novel, Tempest, by Troy Denning, the third book in the Legacy of the Force series. All right, Scott, what did you think of the book?
I really enjoyed it. I feel like that's almost always my answer. Feels boring. But yeah, I liked it. I'm a sucker for lightsaber duels. It's one of the reasons I really love Star Wars. There are a few doozies in here. We got Lobi, the Lobi 2-on-1, which is, I feel like, wonderfully written. We got, Luke and Mara in the cafe with Lumaya and Alima. Really good. And then, little Alana with the diving save in the last battle there with Jason.
We didn't really talk about that one in the plot summary, but Aura Singh does make her way at one point onto the Anakin Solo and tries to attack Alana. Jason...
She's trying to finish the mission, right?
Right. Jason kind of gets into the room just in time and sort of distracts Aura Singh. And then little Alana has this, what does she call it? Her...
something stick.
Yeah, like sleep stick or something like that.
Yeah, something. Defense stick.
Yeah, something like that. I always picture it like an EpiPen that someone hits into the side of their thigh.
Yeah.
But yeah, she crawls over in front of Aura Singh and hits her with that stun stick. I think it's a stun stick. It's what she calls it.
Yes, that sounds right. Stun stick.
It knocks
Which
her
is
out.
exactly how you describe this to a child.
Yeah.
You're not killing anyone. They're just stunned. You stunned him. They're pining for the fjords.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I liked all the lightsaber stuff. We also talked a lot in the first book about, again, I'm a big Leia fan. I like Han too, of course. Who doesn't like Han? But we talked about the complicated choices that they're making in, supporting Corellia, leaving the Galactic Alliance, what that means to Leia, given the fact that she basically frickin' built the thing. There's a lot there, and how they got through the new Jedi Order series by committing to each other. Again, we talked about a lot of this in the first episode, but I think Denning handles it well in this book too, right? Like they've reached a new place where they're seeing that the Corellians have really crossed a bit of a line here, and Leia's not wanting to go over the line to betray the Corellians without Han say so. She's saying, like, if we do this, you said it in your summary, if we do this, we won't be welcome back unless things change a lot. And the way they covered that, the way Troy covered that after the New Jedi Order series, where we saw that renewed commitment to each other, I felt like they did it in a really good way, because it was very much Leia looking out for him when he wasn't looking out for himself. It was sweet and it was nice and was everything I want from Han and Leia. So I loved that part for sure.
What I liked about that choice that you're talking about is it once again shows where Han believes in Corellian independence, but in order to achieve that independence, Han is not willing to cross certain lines. And the assassination of another head of state, personally, I think whether or not that head of state is a family friend, I mean, I think it's worse here because it is a family friend.
Yeah.
But regardless, I think just Corellia getting involved with another star system, putting their military and political backing behind a bunch of planetary rebels who want to remove Tenel Ka from power, that is a line that Han is not willing to cross. So he's willing to, I guess, give up his dream of helping Corellia get its independence by informing his son that this is what's happening and this is what Tenel Ka is about to face.
There's two things there that I want to add to. The very nature of Corellia trying to be independent and make their own choices, and then subverting another government to try to force them into a certain direction and not letting them have their own choice, is hilarious and hypocritical, and I would think great on Han in general. But also, the more important thing is that while we've watched Han try to back Corellia in the generic sense over the last two books, what we learn here is that, his first and foremost loyalty is to his own conscience. And it feels like that's a bit the nature of Corellians. We're our own people. We make our own choices for ourselves. And that's what Han's doing. He can't, in good conscience, make a choice to support the actions that Corellia is doing here. And so he doesn't. And I feel like it's very much in Han's character to do so. And that's what I love most, is when these books embrace and even further what I already think about these characters. I'm not sure I ever thought of Han that way, but when they put it that way and I read it and I'm like, you're right. That's exactly who Han is.
And the other cool part of that moment where Han makes that decision is Leia giving him that information.
Yeah.
Not as some sort of test. It's not a test for her husband.
No.
She's just willing to allow him to make whatever decision he wants to make, and she is going to support whatever that decision is.
Yep. Partnership goals, right? Like, that's what you want.
Speaking of partners, Jacen and Tenel Ka.
Yeah.
Secret lovers. They can't be open with their relationship. Their attraction to each other dates way back to the
Jedi Academy days, right? Like,
the Young Jedi Knights series, when they're both 14, 15 years old. They're not dating or anything in those books, but they clearly look at each other and are attracted to each other. Once in a while, there's some attraction in the New Jedi Order books that we read, but it really comes to a head in the Dark Nest trilogy. We know that after Jacen's 5-year, pilgrimage around the galaxy, he meets with Tenel Ka occasionally in secret. He is the father of her daughter, Alana. But that can't be known. That would be a danger to Tenel Ka and Alana because of what the Hapan people think about Jedi. They have some problems with Tenel Ka herself being a former Jedi. So, in my opinion, it's a little weird how this relationship is described.
Okay.
But I've said my piece on this before here on the show. What's your opinion of Jacen and Tenel Ka's relationship?
Okay, can I ask, before I answer that question, can I ask a quick clarifying question?
Sure.
Maybe it's common in the society where females are in power and it's okay to just have children with fathers that aren't around. Is there a lot of speculation about who the father is? Is everyone constantly wondering, or is it like, nah, it's, whatever. She did what she did and it's fine.
Yes, there is constant questioning over who the father could be. And in the Darkness trilogy, we learned that Tenel Ka used the Force when she first realized she was pregnant to slow down the first trimester. Because the last time people saw her with Jacen on Hapes, they started to talk. They started to wonder,
as people do, there's whole magazines based on
is
it.
our Jedi Queen, who a lot of us don't like, going to marry a Jedi, and now we're going to be ruled by a Jedi. So the question really is, who is the father? She made sure that after Jacen left the last time,
she had a bunch of suitors.
Yes, she met with a bunch of suitors over the next few months, but never with any of them more than once or twice.
We'll leave it at that. I won't ask for the sordid details.
Sure, but that's what it was. That's what we learned.
I appreciate you filling me in. I'm sorry to all the listeners that already knew that and had to, fill the dumb guy in on the podcast. But here's what I think about the relationship in general. He clearly loves them, or has, intense emotional fondness for them. At least he wants to protect them. It's clearly like the top of his list. Everything he says to Lamaya, basically there's in the back of his mind like, well, I'm not going to tell you about that though. Like I'm going to hide that part. So like he clearly cares, and that's admirable. But, and it's a big but. It's it's a big one for me. I have a real problem with people that put the people they love on such a more important platform than the people that others love. Everybody matters to someone. And if you're a Jedi, especially a Jedi that doesn't think his farts smell like Jacen does, that thinks he is so wise and magnanimous and great, he should understand that everyone matters to someone. And his wants for Alana and Tenel Ka shouldn't amount to any more hill of beans than any other person's hill of beans. So, while I want to care about this relationship, I don't. When I see Jacen acting the way he is, when I see him taking such different actions to protect people that others love against the people that he loves, I'm turned off by it, man. I don't care about it. It makes me like Tenel Ka, not like Tenel Ka less. She seems awesome. It makes me relate less to this struggle with Tenel Ka and Alana. Even though Alana seems awesome with her little murder stick. Like, she seems great. What is she, 5'4"?
I think
stabbing
she's 4.
people in the
Isn't
calf.
she 4? I think they say she's 4.
Yeah, I think so. She's stabbing people in the calf, like murderers in the calf with a little stick. That's amazing. But it's the way it's written. It's hard. The way they've written Jacen. It's hard for me to care too much about this relationship.
This is the reason why people either really enjoy or don't enjoy this series as much as others, in my opinion. This is the direct reference to Anakin and Padme in the prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
If you really like that story generally, those people who read this series of books, they like this story because they see basically how Jason and Anakin's story are pretty much the same.
We did talk about this last time with
Sure.
the Anakin journey in Clone Wars and how it kind of fleshes that out a little bit better.
Yeah, we talked about that.
I can't actually remember exactly what you thought about that comparison to Jason, like if we had more. Yeah, maybe I just need more. I need to read more of these books to get better in Jason's head, to feel more empathy for him. I do feel some empathy for Anakin. It doesn't change the fact that I think he's freaking terrible in Revenge of the Sith and makes bad decisions, but I can see how he got there, right?
Yeah.
And I, I respect it, but I can see it at least, right? And I am enjoying these books, so you're not wrong. I like seeing Anakin's journey through Clone Wars and the prequels to see how he got there. So I am enjoying the series too. So I guess I agree with your thesis.
So the assassination plot, you had talked about the Corellians backing it. Obviously, this is a political quid pro quo that a number of the nobles of Hapes who are fed up with Tenel-Ka, who want a change in leadership at the top, have gone behind her back, went to Corellia, and said, hey, if you can back us here overthrowing the Queen Mother, then we will come in to this, we will swap sides. Whoever takes over Hapes can then announce for Corellia. Why do you think Hapes and some of the other systems are starting to back Corellia?
Sympathy is the first answer. Nobody likes a bully. Eventually, everyone can see somebody being abused beyond reason. There are reactions and there are overreactions, and then there's murder, which Jason's tactics they're rough. They're murder to some degree. They're very harsh. They're hurting citizens that haven't really done anything wrong other than kind of be there. They've got arms, I guess. There are relatable crimes in there, but it feels very loose to this reader, at least. And so, yeah, I think people are starting to sympathize with Corellia because they feel like Coruscant has turned into a bit of a villain. And Bothawai, for whatever you think, Bothawai has started seeing in this novel that this is happening, that this envelope is being pushed, and that it's not just Corellians being affected. It's their people. And so the "am I next?" question, combined with the sympathy they're getting, it's kind of a powerful cocktail that can lead to support and very meaningful political change.
In the previous book, Bloodline, my favorite aspect of the story was the way Ben looked at Jason at different points. There were times where he looked up to Jason as a mentor. There were times where he questioned the things that Jason was doing.
Was that the one also where he went and talked to people?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, he talked to Corellians that were on Coruscant as well.
Exactly.
It was Ben at his best to me. Like trying to figure things out instead of relying on. Anyway, keep going.
Right. Well, my question was going to be, we don't see as much of that in this story that we did in the previous story. We don't get any aspect of Ben maybe wondering, is Jason doing the right thing? So what did you think of that master-apprentice relationship and how it was portrayed in this story, Tempest?
Yeah, it's hard because I've started the next book. I'm most of the way through it already, and so I might be mixing stuff. I hope I don't. But you're right. This book is much less of it. In the second book, there's a lot of that. They're doing raids on the buildings in the lower levels of Coruscant. They're trying to find weapons. They're doing things. Ben's talking to people about it. It's very much more of that stuff, and a lot of Jason kind of, I'll just say, gaslighting him. I mean, he's essentially trying to tell Ben that what he's seeing and hearing is not what he's seeing and hearing. And, to be honest, these days when you talk about relationships like that, where there's someone in power and envied and put on a pedestal, talking to someone who's young and trying to learn and being, they're still becoming who they are, learning what they value, that kind of lying is not a relationship, it's abuse. It's actually abuse. It started in the first book, to me. Kat talked about it in the Bloodlines episode as well, and I don't think we spent a bunch of time on it actually in the first episode, but that mind wipe that Jason does to Ben is alarming. I think we talked about it a little bit. It even happens, yes, in this book, Aura Singh, when Jason tries to control her mind, she's like, "Don't ever touch my mind," right? Same thing. You shouldn't have dominion over someone's mind that way. We joke about, these aren't the droids you're looking for, but little things like that maybe okay, but you're talking about removing memories. That's a big deal. It's alarming. And I agree with Kat. Hard to stomach. It continued in book 2 with the softening of the murder on Haber, right? Haber, he basically murders her in questioning, and he just kind of okays it with Ben. He's like, yeah, well, it was unfortunate, but it was what happened. And he constantly kind of just nudges himself into okay territory when Ben's morals don't really agree with that. And he's kind of just slowly moving him, down the spectrum. And it's disturbing. It continues in this book as well, but you're right. It's less. It's very much less. We almost get a break from it a little bit in this book. Ben's just kind of continuing down the path, and they get separated for a little bit. But in general, I guess my summary is, when your hero asks you to do something, it's hard not to do it. And Ben thinks Jason is a hero, and Jason is using that to manipulate him, to change him, to affect his view on reality. And for somebody who's 13 or 14 years old, that's about as close to abuse as you get, to me.
If you are looking forward in this series, where do you see the Jason-Ben relationship can go?
So, I'm not the most experienced Legends reader around, but I've read some, and I feel like the answer is always Master Luke figures it out. And I think he's trying to let Ben come to that himself and look for more clear evidence. But I think in the end, I think Ben's going to figure this out, and Jason is not going to have his apprentice. But it's really the only two ways this can go. Ben's going to figure this out and defy Jason and rejoin, his dad and his mom, or he's going to fall full tilt into the dark side. But it just doesn't, for the exact reason you just stated. He's just interested in people and how they feel and what their needs are as individuals, not as a global solution to a big algorithm, but as individuals. And I feel like if you keep in touch with that, you can find a touchstone that makes you return to a good place. And I think Ben will find that. I guess that's my answer.
I can see that. I think personally, for the way the three authors are writing, there is one slight inconsistency in this book with the way Ben reacts to something Jason's doing than what we just got in the previous book, Bloodlines. And that's when Han and Leia bring Ben, Jaina, and Zek aboard the Falcon. Jason orders one of the Star Destroyers to start shooting at the Falcon, the Anakin Solo. Now, Ben doesn't know that Jason ordered that, but he can see that the Anakin Solo is firing on the Millennium Falcon, is firing on his aunt and uncle, is firing on Jason's twin sister, Jason's parents, and never once in that scene does Ben ever have any thought that, wow, maybe Jason should tell the Anakin Solo to stop firing here. You know, I don't want to die, and I don't think he wants to kill his family. That one little scene has always irked me a little bit about in this book, because it feels to me inconsistent to the Ben we got in the first two books.
I feel like it's meant to. I feel like in the second book we get a Ben that's very much falling in line with Jason. In the gag, in the order of it, in his place, very high, really, in the order of it, and his responsibility. I think it's meant to show, because this book, you're right, it didn't do a good job of really advancing that. It almost feels like this scene is the last gasp of, oh yeah, also we got to show Ben is all in, right? Like, he's all in. He's willing to arrest his entire family here while being fired upon by the guy that he's supporting.
And maybe that is to show Ben falling farther under Jason's thrall.
That's what I mean, yeah.
I just didn't get that from the earlier parts of the book.
Agreed. It's almost like the writer's like, oh, I didn't really advance this part of the thread we all agreed to. Let me throw it in here. Ben's all in. I don't know. I agree with you. It was weird. It's like he's some sort of robot, like, I must cuff you. You know, like, you're not doing that, kid. He's like, well, I must. I got to. You're a criminal. You're not going to. He's like, well, I should. He's right over there. It was a little weird.
And even for someone who's only 13 or 14 years old, okay, let's say he handcuffs Han there on the Millennium Falcon. What's he going to do with him? His aunt is still flying the ship. His cousin Jaina is still just standing there looking at him. She's not going to let him take her father into custody.
Yeah, Ben's pretty powerful, but I believe Jaina's far more powerful.
Sure.
And got Zek on her side, at least before he gets... I don't even know what that wound was, but he gets wounded. I don't think he's winning that fight. But I think that even more speaks to my point. It's meant to just show how far down the rabbit hole he's gone. Even though this book didn't really progress it step by step, that's where he is.
All right, so we talk about that scene from Ben's point of view.
Yeah.
The more important part, I think, though, is Jason just ordering someone to shoot at his mother and father after he got the information that they were not involved with Tenel Ka's assassination attempt, and that they were the ones who warned Tenel Ka about the Corellian fleet showing up, and after he had rescinded the death warrant on them.
Well, he had not yet heard from Tenel Ka that they were the ones that gave the final warning about the Ducha.
Okay.
But
he had already in front of Luke in that one brief part where Luke and Mara show up on the Anakin Solo.
Yes.
And he removed the death mark on their warrant, but keeping in place the arrest warrant itself.
Yeah. He questioned. Well, at some point, when he went to the planet of Algray to go find them, and they weren't there and they'd already left, then he was like, oh, Han and Leia sent me there as a misdirection to help the Corellians. They're still traitors. That's why I think he fired on them. Tenel Ka later said, no, they were still helping me. They gave me the final coordinates of the Algray forces showing up. So I think he was legitimately confused, but also, I mean, as they say in the book, not trusting people he should trust and believe in and love. he just fired on them, which is I think the point you're really getting to. He was willing to kill people he loves for a hunch. Little more than a hunch.
And it shows how far he has already fallen.
Yeah.
Even though he's not a Sith yet, but how far down that path he has gone. Because I do think, if I remember correctly, it makes a mention that after he gives the order, he doesn't feel as bad as he expected to feel in ordering the Star Destroyer to fire on his parents. It's almost like he didn't feel anything, and it was more confusing for him that he didn't feel bad.
Yeah, I think this is a darker, further down the dark side than we think, maybe, right? Because that's the kind of thing, like sacrifice.
And that may be what he was thinking in the moment, that this is the sacrifice he has to make.
Maybe. That's such a big thing in the storyline that we've been given. Like, this sacrifice will be big and will be important, and you must make it proactively. This almost seemed like I hit the button. But it's alarming how quickly he was able to make that choice.
Yeah, and I think, like you're saying, while we're reading that in the moment, we're thinking, okay, this could be the sacrifice. But the last scene, when he is talking to Lamaya, and...
You mean Alima?
You're right. He's talking with Alima again.
Yeah.
She doesn't come out and say it, I don't think.
No, she knows. From the Killick stuff, she knows. He had suspected that she knew from the Killick stuff, but he didn't know for sure. And she's like, yeah, I know. Like, she admits it. And he's like, I should just kill her now.
Right. But it's only in those last, 2 pages where you're kind of thinking that at least when Lumaya said that your sacrifice has to be great, that now you as the reader are thinking, well, does that mean Tanelka? Does that mean Alana? And that's what Jason's thinking at the same point.
Jason thinks he's ahead of Lumaya the whole time. He thinks he's ahead. He thinks he's hidden this. He thinks she doesn't know. He thinks that he's going to get away with saving the actual things he cares about and sacrificing the things he greatly does care about, but less than Tenelka and Alana. And so he thinks he's going to win that way. But, fiction tells us when somebody says you have to sacrifice the greatest thing, it does usually end up having to be the greatest thing.
All right. This has been a little bit long episode than what we normally do, but there's still one topic we got to talk about.
Okay.
What the heck is going on with Luke and Mara? Still, but we're 3 books in. What is going on with Luke and Mara? If there is something that anyone, I don't care if it's your nephew or someone you don't know, if you are having misgivings about anyone, why are you allowing your son to be around that person? So seriously, Scott, what the heck is going on with Luke and Mara?
Yeah, I'm with you. It feels almost so. Man, I kind of think as I read Legends books, I kind of think of it sometimes like Neo in the Matrix. It almost feels like Luke can do anything, and so I think removing him from the plot to a degree and letting other characters take the show makes sense. But at the risk of doing that is, why the hell isn't Luke doing something, right? And when you put in the fact that it's his own kid, it just elevates that criticism, right? It's like, well, I could maybe ignore the fact that he's not getting involved in, interplanetary politics of a Corellian blockade or something, but it's his own son involved. And so it feels hard to me to justify leaving him on the sidelines when his own son is so enwrapped in this. So yeah, it's a mess. Listen, I'm a parent of a 13-year-old kid. Ben is roughly that age. We're very much trying to empower him to make his own choices and see right from wrong himself and determine the people that should be in his life without us telling him. But it is a fine line. If someone were to inject him with drugs, I'd be like, you know what? No, like, you don't get to do that.
You as the parent, though, can still step in at any time if there is
correct.
someone that you really don't want your child to be around and say, I'm sorry, you are not going to be around that child anymore.
Exactly. But we have to also remember that, like, my kid's line is like, hey, man, you shouldn't take drugs. Ben's line is like, you're so powerful, maybe you shouldn't commit intergalactic murder. Right? Like, it's a different line for someone like Ben. So I think they're trying to exercise restraint to give Ben choices and show growth in limiting, what his influences are. But I agree that the yoke has gone too far. It's too much. They're not exerting enough parental control. I agree with that.
The only saving grace for me is that I do think once they learn that Lumaya is back and around,
involved,
they are so focused on that aspect that they just don't believe that Jason could be worse. Worse. I think it's more of a failure of imagination from Luke and Mara than anything else.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. And also not controlling the pieces you have control over. Like, okay, Lumaya's out there terrifying. How about control your son, which you do have control over? Bring that piece back in-house. Let's pull the pieces back and defend the king, and let's see what's what,
Was there anything else you'd like to talk about in this book, Scott?
Oh, man. I feel like I've been really critical, but I am enjoying them. I like them. I'm having fun.
That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even in the things you like, we can nitpick one or two things that are like, I just wish this part was better. Or
but I'm still
I wish I enjoyed this part more.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I'm still reading them. I like them.
Yeah. Well then, Scott, if you have nothing else, I guess it's time to go. Listener, if you have something you'd like to share on the show, a question, an opinion, a comment, or a Star Wars character grouping, you can send me an email at swlegendslounge@gmail.com or send me a message on Twitter, Instagram, or Blue Sky at swlegendslounge. Scott, once again, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thanks for having me on. It's always fun. I'll be with you again, I think, in 2 more books or whatever, and I'll be back.
Coming up on the next episode, Jay will join me to talk about the 4th book in the Legacy of the Force series. That's Exile by Aaron Alston. You can join us for that episode coming out on October 3rd. Ooh, already getting into October, Scott.
It
feels like in some ways it feels like the year just started, and in others it feels like it's been 10 years since January.
Indeed.
Anyway, thank you so much for listening to the Star Wars Legends Lounge today. I'm Aaron Moats. May the Force be with you. And remember, there's always a bit of truth in Legends.